Oh man, I've seen it all come and go as the worst possible way that you can steal from an artist. We've had recolors, tracing, heavy referencing, pose theft, art style theft, color palette theft. We can't forget re-uploads. Heck, straight up sticking someone else's work on your shop for profit. We all know the list goes on and on. Then we saw the rise of NFTs, and everybody thought it couldn't get any worse. It became a huge topic for discussion whether buying NFTs was of any actual value in the art community, with more artists trying to make a living at their craft, not wanting anything to do with NFTs. The community saw an increase in art theft following the rise of the NFT movement. But the one thing that all of these had in common was the original creator could identify their stolen work, and in many cases have the stolen work removed. With AI generators, it's not that easy to find the source material. This is what I believe has caused so many people to get so upset. So today, we're having a deeper look into AI generated work. Before we get started, I would like to say this about my personal beliefs surrounding AI-generated art. I believe these programs had an intended use, that they were designed to complete very well. However, in my personal observation, some individuals are attempting to use the program for an unintended purpose. And because the programs were not designed with those uses in mind, while they can be pushed to complete those tasks, they are not fully achieving the desired results. This is where I believe many of the problems lie with AI generators. Now, in order to take a deeper dive into AI generated artwork, we need to first establish what the intended use of these programs was and what the unintended uses became. Starting with the intended use of the technology. AI generators were originally designed to serve as a starting point for creative humans to build upon. To put that more simply, the idea was to create multiple simple images to serve as reference points for an artist to then create a fully rendered image using their own creativity and skills. This new age technology was never designed with the purpose of replacing creative people. In fact, it was designed with artistic humans in mind to work as a tool for them. This leads us to how a tool, originally designed for artists to use, became a weapon against the community it was intended for. As it gained popularity, AI generators found themselves in the hands of people who knew there was a profit to be made as an artist, but they themselves were not willing to learn the trade. Therefore, the world began to see the results of AI art when it is used for its unintended purpose. Trying to force the program that was created with reference in mind to create fully rendered images has, of course, led to some unbecoming results. However, we now see so many of these poorly generated AI pieces that they are beginning to flood the market. At the end of the day, even if the generator can't create the perfect piece, it can still do it much faster than a human. While the art created by these programs is often extremely flawed, it is quick to produce and becomes increasingly easier to fill a shop with designs. I personally find this approach to artistic profit lazy, but I also recognize there isn't anything that I can do about it personally, so I don't really think about it too much. I can't stop someone from selling AI art, sure. My personal beliefs tell me it would be wrong for me to do that, but I don't have to support people that do. But I can't do anything to really stop them from choosing to do it if they don't view the unintended purpose of the technology wrong themselves. After coming to terms with all of this, there was still missing pieces to the puzzle that I wanted to know more about. For example, I wanted to know whose art was most at risk of being used by these generators. Seeing large image sharing sites like DeviantArt add options to opt out of these programs was an interesting thought to ponder, as I do continue to wonder if checking that box really does anything, or if it's just put there to try and make artists feel as though they are now somehow safe, or a false sense of security, if you will. I have no idea if it's even possible to prove that the checkmark does anything at all. It certainly can't stop someone from saving my art to their PC and feeding it to an AI program manually. So really, the only thing it's really doing is not allowing the program to use your art when combining many images it finds online to complete a new image as prompted. But the question still remained as to who was most at risk. The simple answer would be everyone, right? If these programs are taking from hundreds of images found online to create, then certainly everyone is at risk. Well, I found it probably isn't that simple of a question. From my own testing using one of these programs, I personally tried Wonder on my smartphone. They are fairly limited depending on what you ask them to do. They can't draw upon a certain artist's style unless it's a popular search term. So popularity of the artist definitely puts them at a higher risk over someone like myself, whose artwork doesn't have a very wide reach at all. Secondly, these programs do not fare well with just a written prompt. Unlike all those videos you see plaguing the online space right now, they don't actually generate very accurately if you don't provide them with a sentence or two of a description of what you want. The best these programs will ever perform is if you give them a reference image of what you want and a clear written description of what is expected. Therefore, only proves the point that this technology wasn't designed with non-artists in mind. Anyone using these programs that is not artistic themselves has to be stealing quite a fair amount of art to feed into these programs in order to get anything usable out of them. That, of course, means popular creators are being targeted again, as it's going to be the work most circulated that's going to be used by those abusing AI. The final thing I noticed during testing was the type of artwork the program could best generate. This was probably the most interesting discovery of all because the results were the complete opposite of my expectations. I used my own art for all of these tests. Yes, while I know the program used many other artists' work, not just my own, to create the resulting images, I only gave it my own work to recreate if it was capable. This was the original piece that I gave Wonder. The first time I ran it, I prompted the program to do it better. And this was the results. I had an interesting take on my art for sure. While there are things it did do better than me, I suppose, this image is obviously not usable in terms of making a profit off of it. So I ran it again. The same image. But this time I told Wonder what was in the image, and it arguably did better than the first attempt. This image is more similar to the source material for sure, but I would argue it isn't an enhancement of it. This led me to realize these AI programs aren't going for a sharp image. They can't, in fact, because they are literally combining dozens of images together. They aren't capable of a sharply rendered flawless image. So much so, they depend on blurring details together. So it's not artwork like mine, where details are clear and separated by distinct line art that is at the highest risk of being used by these programs. It's highly rendered digital paintings that are going to be the target because the program can easily mash them together. No, I'm not saying artists like myself are completely free of AI generators. What I am saying is artwork like my own isn't what the technology is likely to use. The proof is in these images. Programs like Wonder will struggle if you ask for something too specific. Broad generalizations with no clear expectations for the results are the key to these things. However, I still wondered if AI could create a simple image or not. I had to know whether or not it would be able to copy traditional work, for example. So I set the generator up again, this time with one of my traditional pieces from my sketchbook, with the written prompt turtle. These were the results. arguably much better than the results beforehand, minus the soulless pit for eyes. It was definitely capable of generating traditional looking pieces of work. While I'll leave it up to you guys whether the AI did a better job here or not, there is definitely a line as to what the program understands and what it doesn't. This could certainly suggest traditional artists are also at high risk of their work being used more often by these programs. I also noticed while testing Wonder's Limits that it struggles with feet, hands, and paws. Cue a poorly timed joke about every artist draws these things poorly. The AI program has absolutely no solid resources to use. I'm joking, of course. It's totally because the technology isn't super advanced, so it sees those small details and doesn't put focus on them and blurs them out. Yep, that's the reason. But of course, that wasn't the last of my discoveries at all about these programs. Another puzzling part of all of this I found was that these programs have paywalls, either for using them limitlessly each day or accessing all the features. So if you look at it one way, you are paying to create these images, which, okay, most digital art programs either have a one-time fee or a subscription rate that you have to pay to access them. And art supplies for traditional work has to be bought as well, so it isn't like artists don't pay for things in order to create, but I still find it very interesting that people out there pay these programs just to type in a sentence and have a wonky image generated for them. You could commission an artist and have a higher quality image in return. Because here's the thing, no matter how much people using AI want to believe it's better work than commissioning an artist, it's not. Browsing DA these days, I can pick out the AI generations before even looking at the description or tags. The same silly mistakes are in every single one of them. Mistakes human artists wouldn't make, like unattached toes and fingers, or extra toes and fingers in weird places, hair running across the face so straight it's awkward to look at. Just to name a few things that separate AI from humans. AI can't recognize a mistake in artwork, not in its own work and not in the source material. So it will continue to make these common mistakes, only proving all on its own. It can't compete with real creative humans. This leads to my theory that these programs can't tell the difference between artwork made by a human and what was made by AI. So, in theory, these programs are not just pulling from human artists, but in fact their own and other AI programs, only causing them to continually repeat the same mistakes, only worse, as time goes on. So again, in theory, they are slowly going to destroy themselves, as the most digestible art for them to use would of course be AI generations. After all, it's exactly what they would understand the best and would be easier for them to remash into something else. When you think about it, it's sort of laughable to a point. Their own misuse of the technology will, in time, make it obsolete, or at least that's where I see this little fad heading in time. Who knows? And of course, at the end of the day, I understand wholeheartedly the reason people are so upset about AI is that they see their own hard work being used as fodder to feed the ever-starving generators, only to see it pop out as a cheap recreation, then to be profited from by someone who in truth did no work at all. I trust fellow artists to know that I stand with you in believing any AI-generated art created for the purpose of profit of any kind is wrong, as it is not the work of the person who is profiting from selling or posting it. Yet, as I stated earlier in this video, I cannot make the change I want to see, so I try not to let it bother me too much. I know I am not contributing to the problem by using these programs in an unintended way, and I do my best to not support those that do. I hope by producing this video I can spread a bit of awareness. I know I won't change the minds of those who abuse these programs. At least they will know this is not a hostile place, but they are not welcome here regardless. I've covered the pros and cons of this technology, and I have weighed the intended versus the unintended purpose of its creation in order to come to the conclusion that while its original objective was a sound idea, it very clearly ended up in the wrong hands and became nothing less than a problem for the community it was supposed to aid. I don't believe that was anybody's fault per se. It's just a repercussion of creating anything, really. Ask any artist for a story about their work being taken and used in any unintended way, and they'll have a story ready for you. As I said at the beginning of the video, there's been so many different ways art has been stolen over the years. Some were more valid than others, but the fact remains artists are in a constant struggle to both share their creations with people that will enjoy them and protect them from those that would steal them. And now, for the very first time, artists are facing a new form of use of their work they can't possibly identify. This has created a whole new type of stress for artists to take on while trying to protect their personal copyright. Many are left with the question of what to do now. Some artists are wondering if they should continue creating at all. To that, all I can say is don't let anyone take something away from you that you enjoy doing so much. Weather out the storm and keep on course. Your resolve will pay off. Continue to support creators that have learnt the craft, take pride in their creations, and put hard work into every piece they make. Build strong communities, commission true artists, and make great friends along the way. This too shall pass. And that brings us to the end of another video. I hope you enjoyed today's topic, even if it was the cause of stress for many in the art community right now. There is something that I wanted to mention to you guys before heading off today. I started a Kofi page. I've had it up for a while now, I just haven't announced it here on YouTube yet. However, my Discord and Twitter already knew all about it. So if you want to be more up to date with everything going on here with my content, consider following me on one of those two options. No pressure, of course. Totally up to each of you hatchlings when and where you want to spend your time interacting with me. But that's just a reminder of all the options that are currently available to you. But getting back to the Kofi page, if you would like to check out my commission options, that would be the place to go. Or if you would like to toss a tip my way at any time, that's also the page to go and visit and do that. I've completed a few commissions over there already. It has been absolutely amazing working with the people and creating for them. Again, this is a completely optional page to visit. There's absolutely no expectation at Deltor251 to provide any sort of payment. All my content is completely free for you to view and enjoy, and it will remain that way. The only time payment is expected is when I am making a custom order for you. Now, with all of that out of the way, I think we are finally ready to glue up this video. So, as always, hatchlings, have a wonderful day, and I will see you all next time.